through longer, and measures of inflation remain elevated. IBM is planting its flag in Manhattan's Flatiron District, signing a 16-year lease at 1 Madison Avenue, adjacent to Madison Square Park. It will occupy 328,000 square feet. It will have its own lobby entrance. Renters, hang on to your wallets. Rent inflation in the U.S. hit another all-time high in January, according to CoreLogic. Single-family rents are up 12.6% from a year ago, led by gains in Miami and Orlando. New York saw the nation's third smallest year-over-year gain, just 7%. That's the Bloomberg Tri-State Business Report. I'm Larry Kofsky on Bloomberg 1130.
The Audi Q5 represents everything we've learned from building one of the world's most progressive vehicles. With forward-thinking technology like standard rear cross traffic assist, this car was born to non-conform. The Audi Q5 is here. Progress is never blending in.
Don't let someone else drive off in the Audi model you've always wanted. Visit your tri-state area Audi dealer to get behind the wheel of yours today, or visit AudiOffers.com for more information.
It's 4:45 on Wall Street. Time for Drive Time Traffic. We do it every 15 minutes right here on Bloomberg Radio. Ed Kalegi, 22 in New Jersey. What's going on?
22 westbound by the Garden State Parkway, Tim, over in Union. An accident with a left lane block and a very heavy ride of about a half hour in and through that area. Coming out of Hillside, the eastbound traffic slow 78. A much better ride right now. Outbound side of the Holland Tunnel stretches back 40 minutes. 10 minutes in from 1 and 9. 30 minutes out of the Lincoln Tunnel. Inbound George Washington Bridge, not too bad right now. If you are trying to get up to the bridge in Manhattan, already that's very heavy traffic. Both sides of town. West side is loaded 60s all the way on up. The FDR is heaviest northbound from the 30s in towards the 80s. The Harlem River Drive is going to take about 20 minutes at least. And now word of an accident on the Deegan northbound over by the crossbar. Weather forecast tonight, partly cloudy, low 45. Tomorrow, sunshine, highs in the mid-60s. Thursday, a few morning showers, highs near 60. And Friday, sunny skies with a high of 70 right now in Central Park. Clear skies are at 63 degrees. This report brought to you by DuckDuckGo. Fed up with companies selling your data? DuckDuckGo is on it. With one download, you can search and browse privately, avoiding trackers, all for free. DuckDuckGo, privacy simplified. With the best ride in and out of the city, I'm Ed Kalegi, Bloomberg 1130. Bloomberg Business Week continues.
Markets, headlines, and breaking news 24 hours a day at Bloomberg.com, the Bloomberg Business app, and at Bloomberg Quick Take. This is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
From Bloomberg World Headquarters, I'm Charlie Pellet. Investors are preparing for a Fed rate liftoff. Stocks advance. Today we get that Fed decision tomorrow, 2 o'clock Wall Street time. Complete coverage right here on Bloomberg Radio as you have come to expect over the years. Yes, Jay Powell's news conference live on Bloomberg Radio, 2:30 Wall Street time. Equities higher. Oil tumbled today. A widely watched manufacturing gauge came in much weaker than expected. S&P up 89 to 42.62, a gain of 2.1%. Year to date, middle of March, down now by 10.5%. We've got the Dow higher today by 599 points, up 1.8%. NASDAQ up 367, up 2.9%. Should point out stocks closed at or session highs. NASDAQ 100 index, the outperformer, up 3.2% today. Russell 2000 up by 1.4%. 10-year yield 2.14%. Spot gold down 1.7%, 1917 the ounce. Bitcoin up 1.9%, 39,449 on Bitcoin. Perhaps the big market story today, the continuing retreat in crude. West Texas Intermediate down 7.8%, 94.97 a barrel. Brent down 7.7%, 98.62 on Brent. I'm Charlie Pellet. That is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
Thank you so much for that update, Charlie Pellet. Tim Stanovic and Katie Greifeld. We're live in the Bloomberg Interactive Brokers studio in New York. I want to get right back to Maria Burrito. She's an art advisor. She's a curator. She's an author. Most recently of the new book, How Creativity Rules the World, the art and business of turning your ideas into gold. Maria joins us once again via Zoom from New York City. Maria, Katie and I were talking during the break. When I was in graduate school about 5 years ago-ish, in orientation, we did, this is business school, we did orientation, we did actual improv training.
Those are very expensive improv classes. I'm just going to say that.
Yeah, I know. That is a really good point, Katie.
I hear you.
Yeah, that is a good point. I just didn't think of it like that. But the whole orientation process is like a conversation for a different time because it's totally wild, and I think it's a little infantilizing, but I think they do that on purpose. Anyway, I want to talk about the improv portion of it because I always thought about it from the perspective of kind of an icebreaker and getting to know people, who you've never met before that you're going to be spending 2 years with. But you argue that this yes and language that you use with improv is really one that business executives, a way that they should be thinking.
Absolutely, and it is because the yes and technique, which was actually borrowed from Dale Coach, Dale Close, who was an acting coach, is because it allows the conversation to keep going. And so when somebody asks you, can you do this incredibly difficult thing for tomorrow, you say, yes, and let's review the scope of that to see if it's possible. And so the important thing about yes and expanding it to other areas of your business is that it puts managers in a place of possibility, in a place where you can actually think about that there is a chance, that there is something you haven't considered, that you can actually continue that conversation in a different place and perspective that you didn't consider before. And this is something that a lot of people are so ingrained with their ideas. A lot of people sometimes are so fixated with just one answer that they miss a lot of what's happening in the periphery, a lot of what's happening that could actually bring an innovative solution to a problem, right? And we have had to really think so fast and react so fast always, but in the past 2 years, it's been accelerated. So what would it be if you throw this technique in your repertoire and instead of saying no, instead of like dismissing ideas from your employees or your clients, you actually go with yes and.
And Maria, talk to us about how you've used that in your own professional life, because what's interesting about your book is you have a lot of, personal anecdotes in there.
Well, I get a lot of clients who come to me with incredibly difficult requests. Like, can I get this piece of art? And that I know is something really, really hard to get or almost impossible, right? So when those things come to me, I always say, yes, and let me see what can I get out of that, right? Because first of all, every client likes to hear yes, no matter who the client is and what industry we're talking about. So that allows me for a moment to actually figure out if I have an hour a day to find if I can actually fulfill the request from my clients. And at the same time, I have made my clients happy. So in my book, I talk about how a very important client of mine who lived in London at the time asked me to get her a Banksy for her husband's birthday. And
First of all, that's a great birthday present.
Yeah, really.
If anyone needs any ideas for me.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, and so Banksy is anonymous, and it's a prankster, it's a provocateur. It's for people who do not know who he is. It's like a guy who has lived on this anonymity, and he has thrived in that position. So I said, oh my God, how am I going to make her happy? She's very important to me. And so I said, yes, of course. And let me get back to you soon about that. And I just closed my eyes and went with like my intuition for like 10 seconds. And I remember a street artist from Brooklyn. And I sent this person a message and I said, do you happen to know Banksy? And, because I was like, does Banksy even exist?
Yeah. That's a fair question. I have that question.
Right? And so this person go back to me and say, why? What do you need? And so I explained the situation. I said, the client is very important, and she's looking for this. And the artist in Brooklyn said, look, give me a second. So it was all about, everybody was sort of like doing yes and at the same time. If you think about this, it was a chain of events where everybody was like, yes and. So in about an hour, I got an email from the artist introducing me to Banksy's manager in London, in East London, a very fun woman in East London, and after that, things sort of happened. But if I would have told my client from the get-go, are you crazy? That's impossible. Nobody can ever get a Banksy.
You were able to use this technique.
Right. And so I encourage people to do it.
Maria, I'm wondering, after researching this book, you're digging through the data, you're going through historical examples, you're using your own anecdotes, your own expertise. What's one way that you've really changed your life based on this research?
I think spending time alone and in silence is a very important thing that people underestimate. And I also bring examples that are so crucial. For
example, you mean time alone, away from your phone, away from Twitter, just
away
sort
from
of
everything.
meditating? How do you mean?
Well, the word meditating has such many different connotations. A lot of people like it, a lot of people don't. Yes, I like the idea of meditating, but if that sounds too heavy for people, I would appreciate if you can look at it as more like 10 minutes to think, 10 minutes to close your eyes and think, no music, no noise. And it's not just go for a walk, because a lot of people are like bargaining that with me sometimes, like, well, what if I go out for a walk? No, because when you're walking, you have to pay attention to where you're stepping so you don't fall. And if you're in a city like New York City, you can't really just like walk aimlessly, right? Because you're going to get hit by a car.
Yeah.
So, the whole thing is about allowing your brain to have a moment of calm and allow for the ideas to marinate. And I do bring the examples of Steve Jobs, who, as you know, was a huge
meditator,
Yeah, he was a huge proponent of Zen meditation, and he told Walter Isaacson when Isaacson was writing Jobs' biography that the monkey mind is always going to be chattering. It's going to bring things that are going to distract you from your goals or from where you're going to find the next solution.
I think I shared this before, but I have a friend who actually keeps a notepad in the shower because that's where he comes up with great ideas, because he's like not distracted by his phone or anything like that.
I have a lot of logistical questions about that.
Yeah, it's like waterproof. Maria Brito, art advisor, curator, and author. She's the author of How Creativity Rules the World, the art and business of turning your ideas into gold. It's Bloomberg Business Week. For Katie Greifeld, I'm Tim Stenevec and the entire team here at Bloomberg Radio. Have a good night. Join Brian Curtis and Doug Krisner tonight at 6 p.m. Wall Street time for Bloomberg Daybreak Asia. Tonight's guests include Lorene Gilbert, CEO of Wealthwise Financial, on her markets outlook. That's Daybreak Asia tonight at 6 on Bloomberg Radio.
This is the Bloomberg Black Business Beat, brought to you by Geico. Investors are looking for different areas to store and grow their cash these days. That's according to Perrin Quarshie, founder and CEO of the RealBlocks FinTech platform. So Perrin, how does the platform work?
The RealBlocks platform is an online platform that we've built that allows alternative investment managers to set up, administer, and distribute alternative investment funds to the retail market.
So what type of alternative investments are you talking about for institutions and individuals to be able to invest in?
We're talking about alternative investments in private real estate, private equity, and private credit.
And what's your outlook on alternative investments for the foreseeable future?
Alternatives are emerging as the preferred asset class for individuals. And I think as interest rates rise, as the Fed has kind of indicated, we're only going to see more of that.
I'm Bloomberg's Renita Young on the Black Business Beat.
4:58 on Wall Street. Time for drive time traffic. We do it every 15 minutes right here on Bloomberg Radio. Ed Kalegi, the Cross County Parkway. What's going on?
Westbound Cross County Parkway, Tim, coming in by exit 8 in Mount Vernon. It is an accident, unfortunately, involving injuries. It has the left lane blocked, and it's a very heavy 15-minute delay now through that area. Looks like the westbound side of the Cross County also slow once you get in towards the Sawmill. Now the FDR with a broken down car northbound at 96. That compounds the issue. Traffic is quite slow coming up from the 30s. The Harlem River Drive very heavy. That's 20 minutes in and of itself. The west side heaviest from about the mid-60s up towards the 130s. Outbound Holland Tunnel, 40 minutes, 10 minutes in from 1 and 9, 30 minutes out over at the Lincoln Tunnel. George Washington Bridge, at least once you do get there, it's not too bad. Traveling in New Jersey, word of an accident, 78 eastbound, the local lanes coming in by the Garden State Parkway, and a heavy 15-minute delay back towards Route 124 and exit 49. The Bloomberg 11:30 three-day weather forecast. Tonight, partly cloudy, low near 45. Tomorrow, sunshine, highs in the mid-60s. Thursday, a few morning showers, highs near 16. Friday, sunny skies. Grab the golf clubs, a high of 70 right now in Central Park. It is clear. We are at 61 degrees with the best ride in and out of the city. I'm at Kalegi, Bloomberg 11:30. Bloomberg Sound On. coming up next.
Live from the financial capital of the world, broadcasting across the globe, this is WBBR New York, Bloomberg 1130. Now, from our nation's capital, this is Bloomberg Sound On.
I'm a little bit unimpressed of the discipline and the training level of the Russian forces.
As bad and as horrific as this is, we want to make sure that we do not see an escalation.
Bloomberg Sound On. Politics, policy, and perspective from D.C.'s top names.
My sense is that commodity prices will remain very high, elevated, certainly over the next few months, probably the first half of the year. Do Republicans want to give Democrats a victory on getting tough with China? On a political basis, the answer is no.
Bloomberg Sound On with Joe Matthew on Bloomberg Radio.
President Biden starts packing for Europe as President Zelensky prepares to address Congress. And Sarah Bloom Raskin withdraws her name from consideration. It's been a busy day in Washington. Welcome to the fastest hour in politics as we travel in two lanes today with the latest on the war in Ukraine and a big setback in President Biden's plans to shape the Federal Reserve. We will discuss ahead with Congressman Ami Bera, Democrat from California, as well Scott Brown, chief economist at Raymond James, will be here. And we've got our signature panel in place. Bloomberg Politics contributors Jeannie Shanzano and Rick Davis are with us for the hour. First, the markets, though, and a little more like it, Charlie Pellet. What do you have?
Indeed, I've got lower energy prices today with the price of crude oil slumping. West Texas Intermediate crude down 6.4%, 96.44 a barrel on WTI. Brent, the global benchmark, down today by 7.9%, 98.42. The Dow, the S&P, NASDAQ all rallied today with the S&P up 89 points, closing at session highs, up 2.1%. The Dow up 599, up 1.8%. NASDAQ up today by 2.9%. 10-year yield 2.14%. Briefly, a story you'll be covering later in the program. Sarah Bloom Raskin withdrawing as President Biden's nominee to be the Fed's vice chair of supervision after it became clear that she did not have the votes to be confirmed. I'm Charlie Pellet. Joe Matthew is a Bloomberg Business Flash.
All right, Charlie, we thank you. As we meet here on the Ides of March, President Biden signs the budget that unlocks billions, almost $14 billion in aid for Ukraine. Also keeps our government funded. About half that money going to military hardware and support, and by every expectation, President Zelensky is about to ask for more when he addresses Congress tomorrow morning. Today, Zelensky spoke to Canada's parliament. Here he is speaking through a translator.
We're not asking for much. We're asking for justice, for real support, which will help us to prevail, to defend, to save life all of the world.
Zelensky describing horrible nights, to use his words, of shelling in Kyiv and across Ukraine. He's likely to bring the same passion and even bigger requests tomorrow when he speaks to U.S. lawmakers virtually, including some things he may not be able to get that we've been hearing about, like a no-fly zone or the MiGs, the jets from Poland that we've been talking about now for weeks. White House Press Secretary Jen Psaki was already trying to get ahead of that today. Here she is.
Without knowing what he's going to say tomorrow, we certainly are familiar with what the asks have been. We have provided our own assessment of what does make sense.